Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome privilege and honor to have you guys here today as we are just a bunch of friends standing around a virtual water cooler talking about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that sort of stuff. Now, on the John Campea Show in the morning, we take a little bit of time to take live questions, but that's all we do here on Open Mic, just live questions. Whatever you guys want to talk about is what we'll talk about. You want to talk about something going on in the world of movie news right now? Great. Some of the movies are in theaters right now? Great. You want to talk about something else entirely? Totally up to you. So, without any further ado, let's dive right into it. And the first question today comes to us from KO Rourke94 writes, can you think of several examples when an actor in their early to mid 20s successfully portrayed a character that was in their mid to late 30s? Oh man, no, not off the top of my head. I mean, it's an interesting question, KO. It is. It's an interesting question, but that's not the type of question you can just drop on somebody in the spur of the moment. That's something I'd have to sit down and think about because, quite often, you may have an actor playing a high school student and then you find out later that actor was in their 30s or, vice versa. And you just don't know at the time. So that's the type of question, while interesting, certainly an interesting conversation, it's not something that someone can just talk about off the top of their heads. And it's certainly not one I can talk about off the top of my head. Sorry about that. I wish I could, but it is a really interesting kind of context there about, often we'll see actors playing younger. We don't often see actors playing older. I'm sure it's happened a number of times. Again, it's just something that I have to look into and think about for a while. All right. Next one comes to us from KW Garrett 83, who writes, and you guys might hear a little buzzing. I'm turning on a fan in here because it's actually getting kind of hot in here. It's getting hot in here. My clothes are staying on. Just pre-ordered Thanos hot toy. Oh, I'm desperately jealous, man. Just pre-ordered the Thanos hot toy. I have 1 year to figure out where to hide it in my apartment from my girlfriend who will think it's ridiculous. Any tips? Nope. I have a completely open honesty kind of relationship with Anne. I tell her every dime I spend. So, because knowing that I have to tell Anne every penny I spend helps me keep a rein on how much I spend. Just knowing that I gotta tell Anne about every penny I spend makes me reel in how much I spend. Because I'm telling you, I've got a few hot toys back here, but I would have like shelves just filled with hot toys if it wasn't for the fact that I had somebody to answer to for the money that I'm spending, which is why, but that Thanos one is one I am going to be keeping on my radar. That's one I may have to just kind of collapse in and give in on. And fortunately, Anne loves toys as much as me. I mean, she works over at Hasbro, so clearly, so I might be able to get away with that one. But nope, you get no tips from me. Just tell her straight up, man. That's the best, honest, open advice I can give you. Daryl Best Wadley writes, Did the trailer for Night School with Kevin Hart? Did the trailer for Night School with Kevin Hart do what? Did it drop? I don't know. Did I see it? No, I don't even know if it dropped. So if you're asking, did it drop? The answer is I don't know. If you're asking if I saw it, the answer is no. I haven't seen it yet. Let's see. Mark Thornton writes, well, I'll let you guys in on a little secret. You guys remember way back in the AMC days, we used to shoot my show over at this studio in Hollywood called Stream TV Studios. I was just over there meeting with the folks at Stream TV Studios today about a little something. It might be turned into something, might not, but I'll tell you guys about that later. But I haven't seen any trailers today because I've actually been out at meetings for most of the day. So if it did drop, I haven't seen it yet. All right, Matt Thornton writes, finally saw Thor 3 and Wonder Woman. Thor was funny and very entertaining. Wonder Woman is good, but I couldn't help but feel, in my opinion, Diane was too over-the-top naive. I'll be honest with you, there are a couple of things about Wonder Woman that bothered me. I don't think the naivete of Diana was one of those. I thought it played fine, especially when you consider like her context, that she was born isolated from the world. She's only known one thing, whereas a lot of those Amazonians, they had lived amongst the world of men. They're a little bit more world-wise, if you will. So, while I had a couple of issues with Wonder Woman, that wasn't one of them. I honestly, personally thought that was okay. Now, that's not to take away from the fact that it was an issue for you. If that's how it struck you, that's how it struck you. Nope, nothing wrong with that. But to be honest with you, that's not one of the things. I thought it had a very weak villain. I thought like the conclusion of the film, like the third act, the big bad guy fight was kind of bad. I didn't like how they used the villain at all. Obviously, I would have liked a little bit more of a talented actress in the lead role. But you know what? Overall, I really liked Wonder Woman, to be honest with you. And while I had a few issues, like you said, the naive nature of Diane, it fit for me. Yeah, I mean, maybe most of you didn't work for you either. Maybe I'm alone in that. But I got to quite say, honestly, that element of the film did work for me. I thought it was handled pretty well and handled pretty consistently. Also, that was used by a really neat juxtaposition of who Diana was versus who she is now. So it sets up a really nice, clear narrative character development path for her. So I got to say, for me, it worked. But hey, totally cool if it didn't work for you, man. Totally understand. That's why all film's subjective, dude. Amin writes, assuming that Cap lives, do you think by the end of Infinity War he will have his beard shaven? Or will we get the classic clean look of Steve in Avengers 4? I'll be honest with you, Amin. Out of all the various things I've taken time to think about over what could or could not happen in Infinity War, will Captain America shave his beard has not been one of them. That is quite awesome. I didn't know that anybody could come up with something about Avengers 3 that I haven't thought of before, and you just came up with one. I have not given any time to considering whether or not Steve shaves his beard. I'll say this. I think the little more gruffness appearance of Captain Rogers is kind of a visual manifestation of these are gritty times. Our heroes are going to find themselves in a sense of desperation. I think the physical appearance of Captain America is a tool in the filmmaker's tool chest to communicate that sense, to communicate that feeling, that tone, if you will. So I'm going to go with no. I don't think Captain America is going to shave his beard. I think he's going to hold on to that beard. Pale Light Studios just sent in a super chat. Thank you so much, Pale Light Studios. Rodrigo Ortiz writes, just saw Love, Simon, and holy shit, wasn't aware your baby girl Jennifer Garner was in it. So beautiful. Also, your thoughts on the movie. Underrated in my opinion. I'll be honest with you. Here, hold on a second. Let me just pull something up here just to make sure I'm getting all the names correct. The name of the lead dude, Nick Robinson, that was his name, really impressed me. It's a nice little film. It's certainly a film that I thought ended up being better than I thought it had, any business being. But it kind of illustrates to me that the shared human experience. And I think I talked about this on the show a while ago too, when it came to Love, Simon. In our human experiences, we have so many things that differentiate us, right? Race, gender, sexual orientation, sexual status, economic status, nationality, on and on and on. There's a lot of different things that are categorize us, right? It's really neat when you get to see a movie that really, and a lot of movies do this, but that transcend whatever one of those categories you're in, just to the heart of the shared human experiences that we all have. One of which is self-identity, one of which is love, one of which is, and I just feel that, because, not being a gay male, I wonder, hey, will movies that have like a gay character in it, is that something that I'll be able to relate with? And maybe I should, or maybe I shouldn't even question that. But the fact of the matter is I did question it. Right or wrong, I questioned it. But, going into it, and I felt kind of the same way about Call Me By Your Name, but watching Love, Simon, it does such a good job of, it transcends straight, gay, white, black, whatever. It gets right to the heart of the shared human experiences we all have. And that's where I think the movie really works. Is it going to be in my top 10 favorite films of the year? No. But I quite enjoyed the film and I thought it was really good. All right, let's move on here. Next one comes to us from Pale Light Studios, who writes, hey, John, what are your thoughts on Blade Runner 2049? No one talks about it enough. I freaking loved it. Praise Denis Villeneuve. I didn't like it as much as most people. I liked it, which is a huge step forward for me because I didn't even like the original Blade Runner. I liked it, but honestly, I honestly thought it was a little bit more style over substance. That movie was far longer than it needed to be. And it's okay to be slow. Slow can be good. Dragging is not good. And I felt there were times in the movie that dragged. I remember that some of my friends were just shocked when, the Oscar buzz started up and no one was buzzing about Blade Runner 2049, about getting any kind of Oscar consideration. And it's like, well, it didn't deserve it. Sorry. I mean, that's just my opinion. And if you loved it, that's great. Most of my friends totally loved it. I just honestly didn't think it was that good. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a hell of a lot more than I did the original Blade Runner. But to me, it was a little bit more style over substance. I thought it was pretty weak narrative connections, like going from A to B to D, C to D. Maybe if I knew my alphabet, maybe that would help. Going from A to B to C to D was pretty flimsy, to be honest with you. And it took a lot of big logic leaps to me as well. Again, go back and watch my review. I quite enjoyed it. I did. I liked the movie overall. I'm just kind of focusing on the negatives right now. I like the movie very much. I give it a thumbs up. I gave it a positive review. But I'll be honest with you, I didn't like it as much as most people. So that just kind of puts me in the minority, I think. Ben Rayner writes, what happened to Christoph Waltz? A few years ago, he was on top. He's not getting good parts anymore, and he's not turning in good performances. Where did he not turn in a good performance? Just because the movies, like, for instance, that last James Bond movie wasn't the best movie. I thought his performance was great. I had absolutely zero problems with his performance. Now, anyway, he's going to be coming up in that new Alita Battle Angel. So he's got a major role in that. So that's coming up. He's got another one. You know what? Let me pull up here. He's got another movie coming up. And I'm trying to remember the name of it. Hold on a second. Where's it going? I know he's doing it with Annette Bening. Georgetown. That's right. So he's got this movie called Georgetown coming out as well. But of course, the big one he's got coming up is Alita Battle Angel. I thought he gave a really good performance in Downsizing. Downsizing wasn't a great movie, but I thought he gave a good performance in it. I thought he gave a good performance in Legend of Tarzan. I thought he gave a great performance in Spectre, even though Spectre wasn't a great movie. I think a lot of people confuse, if the movie's not that good, that means the performances weren't good. And that couldn't be further from the truth. You can have a great movie with some questionable performances. You can have an awful movie with some really good performances. Performances are just one of the things that go into making a good movie. So it's not like the two are synonymous. And so I'll disagree with you. I have not lost. I don't think Christoph Waltz has taken a single step backwards. I think he's been great. He hasn't been given the greatest characters to play, but I think he's been great. And it'll be neat to see what he does in Alita Battle Angel. All right, let's move on here. Daryl Best Wadley writes, which is better, F is for Family or Big Mouth? Haven't watched either. I remember I talked about Big Mouth because it looked amazing. Couldn't wait to see it, blah, 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 blah. But like a lot of shows, it just has to sit on my shelf because I don't have a lot of time to watch a lot of TV. So never got around to it. I hear that Big Mouth is probably better, but I can't give you an opinion on that. Mason Barr writes, hey, John, I'm looking for a movie to watch Ready Player One. John, I am looking for a movie to watch Ready Player One. Oh, I'm looking for a movie to watch, comma, Ready Player One, or Molly's Game. Whether it's in theaters now or on demand, I can't decide on which to watch. Well, I'm not even sure if Molly Games is available on home video. Molly's Game was my second favorite movie of last year, I think, when it was all said and done. I loved Molly's Game. I thought Sorkin delivered just a great, great directorial. I believe it might have been his directorial debut. The movie's fantastic. I'm a little biased because I love poker so much, and poker is one of the themes, but so I thought the movie was great. Well, right now you can see Ready Player One in theaters. You can't see Molly Game in theaters. And Ready Player One is one of these movies you should see in theaters. So I'll say, go see Ready Player One. That's my recommendation. Adam Griffin writes, thoughts on those at the YouTube building in San Bruno? I look forward to the day we don't have continuous news of active shooters. Well, what am I supposed to say, Adam? I mean, seriously, what am I supposed to say? For those of you who didn't hear, the last time I checked, which is about 20 minutes ago, the news had just broke that there was an active shooter either in or around the YouTube headquarters in Northern California. But what am I supposed to say? I mean, yay? Oh, it's bad. Of course it's bad. What human being isn't going to say it's bad? I mean, what are my thoughts? My thoughts are, that sucks. That's my thoughts. Now, I have a very stern policy on my channel that I don't get into politics on my channel. I'll go into politics on my personal social media. I do not get into politics on my show. Well, John, you talk about equality. Yeah, equality is not a political issue. Equality is a human issue. Don't try to BS your way out of equality conversations by calling them political conversations. They're only political if you make them political. Equality is not a political issue. I will talk about equality on my show, but I won't talk about like political issues. I won't talk about, foreign policy. I won't talk about building a wall in Mexico. I won't talk about gun control. I'll talk about those things on my personal channel. I won't talk about them here. So, I mean, really, what else am I supposed to say, Adam, other than what I'm sure every other human being is saying? That's awful. I mean, it's awful what's going on there. And I hope once I'm done this show today, I'll definitely be hopping over trying to find out more information because I got very, very little information. The news was just breaking as I jumped on here. So anyway, let's see. Next, Jedi Knight and friend to Captain Solo. I loved Alicia's performance in Tomb Raider. Me too. Seems like it'll just make the profit zone. Do you think a good director may see potential and ask WB for a sequel? Doesn't matter. Every director would want to direct a Tomb Raider thing. Every director would want to be given a paying gig to make a major motion picture for a studio. Every director out there wants that. So that's not the question. The question is, would Warner Brothers have any interest in making it? And I simply don't know the answer to that. Let me pull up the numbers right now to see where Tomb Raider is as far as its box office performance right now, because it wasn't doing great. So the production budget was close to $100 million. Right now it's made $247. It's not going to crack 3. And at that number, I just don't know if it's going to be profitable. If it gets to 260, 270, it's questionable. So it may break even. I just don't see... Here's the thing. If the reviews were gangbuster, like if people who did see it loved it, and the critics loved it, and there was positive word of mouth from all the audiences, then what Warner Brothers could do is say, okay, this one barely broke even, but there's clearly a lot of positive momentum. We think there's a decent chance if we make another one, it could make even more. But that's not the case. Tomb Raider got middle-of-the-road response. I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was pretty good. Not everybody did, though. So if I go over to Tomb Raider 2018 Rotten Tomatoes, what we're going to see is that right now Tomb Raider, I believe it was still positive. No, it's sitting at 49%. And the audience score is somewhere in the 60s. It's just not there. So now you have a movie that's barely, if it's lucky, going to break even. Despite the fact that it's a really well-known IP. It got mediocre at best reviews from the audience and from the critics. I just don't see the motivation there from the studio to jump on it and do a sequel. It's irrelevant what director comes to them and says, I want to do it. The studio's going to say, well, of course you want to do it. You're a working director. You want a paying gig. But I have a hard time seeing them do another one. Anything's possible. We've seen stranger things happen. We've seen movies with less likelihood to get sequels. So it has happened. But this one's going to be a tall order. It's going to be a tall order to pull that one out. And it's too bad because I kind of like the film. And I thought Vikander was great in the role. I really did. All right. The number Thor writes, thoughts on the show Strike Back. Never seen it. Never heard of it. Aram writes, with The Last Jedi's controversy and Rian Johnson not helping with his remarks on Twitter, do you think this will affect his new Star Wars trilogy's box office? No. The fact of the matter is, if you stop 10 film fans coming out of a movie theater and ask them, what's the name of the director of Star Wars The Last Jedi? Maybe 1, maybe 2 out of 10 would even be able to tell you the name of the director right there. And the controversy is whatever. Look, the majority of people like Star Wars The Last Jedi. There's a very vocal group of people who didn't, and that's the subjectivity of film, man. I mean, that's cool. I have no problems with anybody who doesn't like it. That's film. It sucks that they didn't, but hey, man, that's film. You got to just live with that. And Rian Johnson, I don't think he's been making things any worse. I think he's been defending his movie. And look, here's the reality. The reality is this. Before any feedback from anybody, and this is the most important thing to Disney, Disney loved the movie. They loved it. They loved it so much and thought it was so bold that before it even hit theaters, they signed on Rian Johnson to do multiple things. And Disney is one of these studios that very intelligently does not listen to the audience. because the audience thing can sway back and forth like that. I mean, it's just a thing. They know they loved the film, and that's the most important thing to them. They loved it. And there's a bunch of people in the fandom, like myself, who also loved it. There's some people in the fandom who didn't. Hey, that's life. I'm not going to make excuses for people who didn't like it, just like I don't like people who didn't like it making excuses for why I did. But that was it. But no, I don't see there being any connection to it at all. I think it'll be as good as it's going to be. It's going to be as bad as it's going to be, and it's going to make the money it's going to make. If it's great and people love it and there's big pop for it from the audience and word of mouth, it's going to make a ton of money. If there's not, it's not going to make a ton of money, and that's regardless of whoever the director is. So we'll just kind of see how that goes. All right, next one comes to us from Zach Clayton Douglas, who writes, any book recommendations about film criticism that help analyze and enhance my appreciation of a movie? P.S. I agree, Iron Spider needs to go away. No, I have never read any books on film criticism. To me, look, film criticism is, and by the way, I mean, sometimes if somebody asks, I'll say I'm a film critic because I don't really know how else to explain what it is I do for a living. Like, people ask me, what do you do? It's hard to explain what I do. And sometimes I'll say film critic just because that's the closest thing I can say that will get them the closest to understanding what it is that I do, but I'm really not a film critic. When people who would understand what I'm talking about ask me, what I say is I'm a film pundit. And I've got a load of respect for true, from a scholarly point of view, film criticism points of view. And that takes more to be that than just starting up a free YouTube channel or podcast. So I've never really read any books on film criticism. I just know I've watched a lot of film critics. And I've learned what I've learned. Really, film criticism is really mostly about communication and your ability to take your thoughts on something and communicate in such a way that gets your point across in an effective and hopefully entertaining way. So that's really what I do. But no, honestly, it's an interesting question, but I have honestly never read any books on film criticism. Maybe I should, but I haven't, to be honest with you. And yes, the Iron Spider needs to go away. The Number Thor writes, thoughts on the thoughts on the Jason Momoa Conan movie. I know it's not as good as Arnie's original, and I could see why people didn't like it or why we won't get a sequel, even though I would love your thoughts. Let's put it this way. I thought Jason Momoa made a great Conan. Secondly, I thought the beginning of that Conan was great, with the baby being born by, the husband cutting his wife open in the middle of battle. God, that was awesome. To give birth to their child. I mean, it was fantastic on that level. I loved that. It started off really strong. Didn't finish super strong. Did not finish super strong. And it's too bad, too, because you got Slang in there. Stephen Lang was the villain, one of the villains of the film. And I love him, and I thought he made a good villain, but it was a script movie. This is a movie that the script just didn't get there. And it's too bad because it could have been great. You take the first act of that movie. Like, here's the thing. If I had to, let's say I got an emergency, somebody came to me while I was sitting in the premiere, somebody came to me and said, John, there's an emergency you have to address, and I had to leave the theater after the first act of the film, I would have gone home thinking, this is a better Conan movie than Arnold's. This is a better Conan movie than Arnold's. Of course, though, I did stick around. For the second act and the third act, and unfortunately kind of went off the wheel well there. So I was okay with it. But it's just so disappointing because the movie started so very, very strong. And I really loved it, like, for the first 20 minutes. Anyway, let's see. The next one comes from us from Sven86, who writes, greetings from Norway. Have you seen a series of unfortunate events on Netflix? I'm loving it. No, I haven't. And it's funny because I get asked that all the time on the show. Have you seen a series of unfortunate events? And I haven't. It's just, again, another show that I've just not had any time to watch. But I'm hearing really good things. I heard the cast is really good. I heard the story's very good. Everybody that I've talked to have said it's a better, property than the movie was with Jim Carrey in the lead. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat board at the same time. Everybody's telling me that. So at some point, I got to check it out. But no, I have not had a chance to watch it yet. But it is on my radar, absolutely. Let's see. Oops, it jumped a bunch here. Hold on a second. Sorry, keep going back. Okay, there we go. Okay, thoughts and suggestions. Well, okay, Anthony R. writes, and by the way, guys, every once in a while you see me jump around because the YouTube glitches, and then all of a sudden all the new chats come in, so that's why you see me do that every once in a while. Anthony R. writes, if you have trouble growing facial hair, which I do, just watch the intro to 90s Iron Man cartoon. Shirtless Tony with a mullet building his armor. You get manlier. Yeah, man. I mean, that's the thing. I have the face of a 6-year-old boy. I can't grow facial hair. I mean, some people have seen me when I would do like Movember, and I would do no shave November, and I wouldn't shave at all. And I get into like week 3, and people are like, oh, did you just start No Shave November 2 days ago? It's like, no, I've been growing this for like 3 weeks, and people look at me like I'm lying. Like, that's how bad. I mean, and I can grow hair here. I can also grow hair here very slowly. I do not grow any hair here. So if I like wanted one of those biker handlebar mustaches, I'm just completely shit out of luck. Never going to be able to do it. I just do not have the genes, despite the fact that I'm Italian. I just do not have the genes to grow facial hair, which sucks. I mean, I guess it's good in some ways, but terrible in others. Let's see. Boy Chua Sang writes, thoughts on the Bill and Ted 3 news. What news? Last I heard, hold on a second. Last I heard, they were still talking about maybe it could happen. Yeah, they're still talking about it. So really right now, there's no news. There's no news. I just heard that it's getting closer to becoming a reality. I still don't really believe that's going to happen. I still don't believe it's going to happen. Totally possible. Totally could. There are clearly players involved who want to do it, but they're not the ones paying the bills. And I'll be honest with you. The movie's going to flop. If they did make it, it's going to flop. No, John, everybody loves Bill and Ted. If they did another one, it'd be a huge hit. No, it won't. I guarantee you will not. I absolutely guarantee you will not. Now, it all depends on what you mean by a flop. I don't think a Bill and Ted 3 would open to $5 million, but it sure as hell ain't opening to $50 million either. So I don't know. But as of right now, there is no news. That's the bottom line right now. There's no news on it. Let's see. ZOMG Ruler writes, have any vegan friends tried to convert you or Anne? Hey, look, I fully respect anybody who's vegetarian or vegan or anything. I've dated vegan girls before. Totally respect any of it. But anybody who knows me, even in the least, knows that I'm a meatitarian. It would be folly to try to talk me into being a vegetarian or vegan. Again, all the respect in the world. No disrespect to anybody out there who are vegetarians or vegans. That's great if that's your choice. I choose to be something different. And I am too hardcore engraved into being what I am to ever change it. To ever change. So again, all respect. But nope, that's not for me. And I think anybody who knows me would know well enough not to even try. So no one's ever tried to talk me into that. Anthony R. writes, also, did you see the 90s Spider-Man cartoon? The censorship was hilarious. Guns were replaced by lasers. Blade had a lightsaber and Spidey couldn't punch. Nope, but I've heard a little bit about that. I didn't know it was to that degree or that far. If you guys have seen it, jump down in the comments and let me know a little bit more about that. But no, I never really watched. I think I probably saw a few things here and there, but I never really made any sort of concentrated effort to sit down and watch it. Speaking of TV shows that I make a concentrated effort to watch, here's Supernatural got renewed for a 14th season. 14th season. It is just extending the record of longest running CW show ever, and I couldn't be happier. It's going to be a sad day for me when they finally cancel that show, because I love it. I still watch it every week in, week out, and the Scooby Natural episode was so good. Okay, Rose Dower writes, recommendation, quiz show, 1994. I feel like it's kind of a forgotten movie, but I love it. It was a box office bomb, but it got a Best Picture nomination for good reason. You got who I consider to be the greatest actor alive today not to have an Oscar on their mantle, and that's Ralph Fiennes. You got John Turturro was in it as well. I believe even Hank Azaria, if I remember correct. Hank Azaria is in that film as well. I like Hank Azaria for all his voices on The Simpsons. He was really hilarious in America's Sweetheart too. I'm a big fan of Hank Azaria. Anyway, fabulous movie. Absolutely fabulous. That's a great recommendation. Guys, if you're keeping a little notebook of recommended movies, Quiz Show. If you haven't watched it, mark it down. Terrific thing. Okay, let's move on here. Rose Ryan just sends in a super chat. Thank you so much, Rose. Chris Martin writes, I still can't get over how awesome Greatest Showman was. More musicals like this, please. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy Greatest Showman a lot. I've been listening to the soundtrack for months and months and months and months. My one thing about it, though, is that as a movie, it wasn't the greatest narrative, and it wasn't the greatest story. What really saved Greatest Showman was the musical numbers. And fortunately, that's what the majority of the movie is. I thought it could have been a little stronger story-wise. I think they could have done a better job story-wise. That's what prevents it from being like on my top 3 or 4 or 5 all-time favorite musical lists. But just as far as the music goes, brilliant. I had so much fun watching that movie. I continue to have so much fun every time I watch that movie. If you haven't checked out Greatest Showman still, check it out. It's really, really quite an experience. Let's see. Where did I go here? Dakota Barber writes, I thought A Quiet Place was rated R, but after checking was surprised it's PG-13. Looks like a movie that will get away with a lot with PG-13. Yeah, actually, even I said on one of the shows, Quiet Place is rated R, but no, it's actually rated PG-13. Which is interesting because what I kept hearing coming out of South by Southwest was how legit scary the movie is. Scary and original and all that kind of stuff. But it does go to show you, like you're pointing out here, Dakota, that especially today with what the PG-13 is, you can get away with a hell of a lot in a PG-13. If you just don't drop too many F-bombs, don't show any titties, and don't show too much gratuitous amounts of blood, you can get away with a lot. And we've seen a number of movies that are examples of that. So I'm really curious to see how far, A Quiet Place pushes that boundary of the PG-13, especially considering how scary I hear the movie is. So, I mean, that's something for us to totally keep our eyes on. All right, let's move on here. The next one comes to us from Austin Butchert, who writes, which one do you hate more, Iron Spider or Jar Jar? Oh, I can still love Spider-Man Homecoming with the Iron Man Jr. in it. I don't call it Iron Spider. I call it Iron Man Jr. That's what they turned Spider-Man into. Spider-Man isn't Spider-Man anymore. He's not cool enough. They had to make him Iron Man Jr. to be cool. Stupid ridiculous. But I can still love the movie, and I did. So definitely Jar Jar. Mr. Film writes, writing a good screenplay is hard as fuck. It's my goal. Yep, writing a good screenplay is really tough. I mean, I took years writing my screenplay. And I mean, how good or bad it is up to anybody to say. It's certainly not the strongest screenplay. I was super proud of it that I wrote it. I was super proud of it. But you're right, man. Writing a good screenplay, just like making a good movie, is terribly difficult. Abraham Novello writes, who wins, Dominic Toretto or Anne Campea? Well, it depends on if he pisses her off. If Dominic Toretto pisses off Anne, she is 105 pounds of Filipina fury, my friends. 105 pounds of Filipina fury. Who's, spent years with me in mixed martial arts. She's a badass. She's in the gym every morning, running an hour every day. I pity Dominic Toretto, especially if he badmouths like Filipino food. Like if he says something bad about chicken adobo or something, yeah, she wipe him out. Hugh Dewsbury writes, what are your thoughts on filmmaker David Lynch? Oh, he's great. Somebody just asked me that exact same question. I know it wasn't you, Hugh, but just last week somebody asked me that exact same question. He's brilliant. He's fantastic. Mark Hansen writes, got to play D6 Star Wars at Who's Your Con in Indy this weekend. Fabulous. It was the bomb. Now I have to get a group together. To me, now I've played a lot of role-playing games. And it's funny, you know what? It's been a long time since I've played Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons, like most people, is the first role-playing game I got into. And then I got into, I played some DC Heroes. DC Heroes was also a great role-playing game with a great system. It was like this exponential system that was wonderful. I had a really good time with it. Then I got into the West End Games D6 version of Star Wars. The D6 system is still to this day, to me, the best system. And I wish somebody could take Dungeons and Dragons and just apply the D6 system to it as well. The D6 system is just unbelievable. I love the D6 system. And that's part of the reason, besides the fact that it's a Star Wars role-playing game, that I loved it so much. It made role-playing so intuitive, so straightforward, that then the easier the rules are, the more you can just focus on your character and on story. And it was wonderful. But anyway, Anne, you might have heard me mention this. Anne, now on Thursday nights, she has a Dungeons and Dragons group that she plays with at Hasbro. And they play on Thursday nights. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with this picture? My wife is in a D&D group and I am not. So I've actually been thinking about getting back into D&D. I haven't played D&D in ages. I certainly don't know any of the new rules. But this guy I know, Kyle Newman, who is the director of Fanboys and directed a number of other things, super great guy. He's invited me before to get together to role play, and I'm thinking I'm going to try to get a D&D group together. And start playing some D&D, but I'm super envious you got to play the D6 system. Definitely get a group together, have some fun. It's a great game system. Anthony R. writes, I know you're a busy man, but if you get your hands on a PS4, get Kingdom Hearts 1.5 plus 2.5 remix and 2.8 collection, Disney and Final Fantasy characters. It's funny because Ray just came over the other night because we had a little birthday get together for Anne's birthday, and a bunch of friends came over, and Ray brought a PS4. And he brought this, and I know you're talking about Kingdom Hearts, but you brought up PS4. Ray brought over his PS4, and he bought this game called Hidden Agenda. And what it is, it's a mystery, it's a murder mystery game, essentially. And the Katie, I can't remember her, Katie Cassidy, the girl who plays Captain Buckles, Laura Lance in Arrow, she's the lead character. And does a really good job in it too, but anyway. It's up to 6 players. And what you do is you download the app and your phone connects to the PS4 via the Wi-Fi network. And you have to work together to try to navigate the story and figure out the mystery. And it was so much fun. We had so much fun playing that game. Look it up. It's called Hidden Agenda. I don't know if it was for anything else other than the PS4. I just know it was on the PS4, but go and check that out. But yeah, Anthony, a lot of people are telling me to check out Kingdom Hearts. I've never played it, never seen anybody play it, but a lot of people, ever since I mentioned that, everybody's been telling me to check out Kingdom Hearts, so I'll have to give that a shot. All right, Chris Martin writes, John, there are so many hot toys coming out. I pre-ordered the Obi-Wan Mythos figure mixed between Ewan McGregor and Alec Guinness. I also need to order the Emperor Return of the Jedi. Can't wait. That one looks awesome. By the way, I haven't seen the Obi-Wan Mythos figure. I haven't seen that one yet. I've seen the Emperor Return of the Jedi one. That one's just nutty. Like, just absolutely nutty. That one's so good. I know. It's difficult. Like, when I get on the Hot Toys website, and I don't know why I do it to myself, because I never order anything, because it's so expensive. And they're totally worth it. But I just want to buy, like, 10 of them. You know what I mean? I just want to drop like $3,000 and buy 10 of them. Then, of course, I would have to tell Anne. Anne is 105 pounds of Filipina fury. It's not really worth it what I would go through at that point. But, man, they're so good. They're so good. And they look so great. So you're right, man. I just want to scream when I see how many cool ones there are. And it's not just the new ones. Like, the classic ones are so good, too. I'll quite often find myself jumping on Craigslist and just look up Hot Toys. Boom, and just see all the used or the pre-owned Hot Toys that are available right now. And there's just so many good ones, man. So many good ones. Anyway, okay, sigh. Dimebag 505 writes, is Valkyrie in Infinity War one of my favorite new characters? I don't know. They've certainly never mentioned her. And we do know that she's on that ship with Thor when it gets, boarded by Thanos' ship. And we know she's going to be in future MCU movies. But they've never mentioned Tessa Thompson as far as Infinity War goes. So I don't know. I mean, you would think you'd at least have to see her for a minute before she jumps in an escape pod and takes off and lands on some planet where she's out for the rest of the story. You'd think so, but I mean, I simply don't know. Because not only Valkyrie, what about the other people who were there too? What about Meek? What about Korg? What about Heimdall? What about all those dudes that were there with him on that ship? What's going on with all them? So just another one of the big questions we're going to have going into Infinity War. Just weeks away now, guys. We are actually in the month that Infinity War is coming out. Crazy. Dakota Barber writes, I hope everyone is safe at the shooting YouTube HQ. All of us hope that, man. All of us hope that. Chris Martin writes, any news on Matt Reeves' Batman? I need to see this now. Nope. Still no news. Like I reported to you guys before, I found out that he was supposed to submit a treatment for the new Batman films back in like October or November. And he just never did. It just never got turned in. Whether it has been... Now, the last I talked to some people, it still hadn't been turned in. Forget the script. He's got to turn in a treatment for Warner Brothers to greenlight. Then he can write the full script. So we are still really far out. Like I said, the last I heard, and this is going back maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, he still hadn't even turned in a treatment yet. And that his delay has caused other films to be delayed and in some cases almost canceled. I mean, so I just don't know what's going on with that. I just don't know. Like everybody knows when they announced him, like I would rather have Ben Affleck directing it, yes. But when they announced that Matt Reeves was going to be the new director, I was like, great. I think Matt Reeves is a great director. I can't wait to see what he does with it. That was over a year ago. And apparently Warner Brothers still doesn't have a treatment from him. So I honestly, I do not know what's going on. I do not know what's going on. I don't think anybody does. So we'll just have to wait and see. Let's see. Chris Parker writes, favorite Trek movie featuring the Next Generation cast? See, a lot of people will say that one where they go back in time and they, I think was John Malkovich in that? Anyway, they meet the guy who created Warp Drive. I keep forgetting the name of that one. That's not the one to me. I think it's the one with the Borg Queen. I think that might be the one that I enjoyed the most. And I know I'm in the total minority of that one, and I can't even remember the name of it, but I think that's the one that I like the most. Let's see. Anthony R. writes, I noticed in Jessica J, I'm guessing that means Jones, they mentioned aliens and superpowers more than the other Netflix shows. Is that because the other shows are more grounded? I don't know. They also mentioned The Raft in that. Again, they don't get into many specifics in their references. But I really don't know like how much it has to do with the fact that others are more grounded. Remember, Jessica Jones is in... You know, she's crossed with Luke Cage. She's in Defender. So there's not that much difference. They don't treat them with that much difference, the Netflix shows. They're all treated very differently from the movie. So I don't know that there's really anything significant to that. Maybe we'll hear an interview with somebody involved with it and they'll say that there is. But off the top of my head, I don't really think there's any significance to that. All right. Next one comes to us from Micah T, who writes, considering taking a hiatus from the internet until Infinity War, 23 days... for a movie I've been waiting since fall of 2014 when they announced it. I could cry. I mean, you might want to do that. That's difficult. I'd just be very careful where you go. It's going to be... Now, the nice thing is there are not going to be any screenings prior to the premiere on the 23rd. So the Russo brothers have put out a statement. There are no screenings. They're going to do a tour around and show like 5 minutes, 10 minutes of the movie here and there, but nothing that they said would contain any major spoilers in it. So basically the Russos have confirmed no one's going to see this movie in its entirety until April 23rd. So at least between now and April 23rd, you should be safe. Once you hit April 24th, you're going to want to be careful. You're going to want to be careful. And again, let me take this opportunity to make a plea to all of my fellow YouTube film pundits. I know you are going to have the temptation, and I understand the temptation, to put out a spoiler review prior to the movie opening in the United States on the 27th. I implore you, and you're within your right to do it. You are. You're within your rights to do it. But I implore you on behalf of the film fan community, please don't. Put out your regular review, but please don't put out a spoiler review until like the 28th. Please don't, for the health of the film fan community. Because when you put out your spoiler review early, all you're doing is getting all those trolls who are going to come and watch your spoiler review. Now you've armed them all. You've armed all the trolls with all the spoilers, and now all those trolls, we've seen it happen. We're going to go out and start dropping spoilers and ruining the movie for everybody. That's what's going to happen, and you are going to enable them to do that. please consider not doing that. Please consider not putting out a spoiler review until after the film opens. Please, for heaven's sakes. Just, if you love the film fan community, please consider not doing that. So anyway, that's my plea. Anyway, thanks a lot, Micah. Old Flicks Joe writes, have you ever seen Super? The movie was directed... Oh, yes, with James Gunn. I thought the movie was actually great, an underrated vigilante movie. Your thoughts? Yeah, it was great. It was like darkly funny. James Gunn is a terrific director. Whether you're talking about Super, whether you're talking about Slither, which is I think one of the most underrated movies of all time is Slither. Whether you're talking his amazing web series, PG Porn, is incredible. If you haven't seen PG Porn, look it up online. You should be able to find some episodes. It's really funny. Like, especially the one with Nathan Fillion. Anyway, he's great. Rainn Wilson in there was Super. It's a really great little movie. And for some of you, maybe if you've never even heard of it, now you've heard of it, check out Super if you get a chance. Totally different kind of movie. Low budget, the whole bit. James Gunn just kind of thrives in that atmosphere. He's so good at that. All right. Next one. We've got a few minutes left here. It comes to us from Chris Parker, who writes, Zemeckis is one of my favorite directors. Aside from the headline stuff, Back to the Future, Gump, Castaway, etc., there's many gems in his filmography. Contact, The Walk, Flight. I even love What Lies Beneath. Very Hitchcockian. I was one of the few... I remember when What Lies Beneath came out, which is the one with Harrison Ford and I believe Michelle Pfeiffer. I wanted to love that movie, but I didn't. To me, it was just a play on every single ghost movie stereotype you could think of, but whatever. Okay, whatever. But you're right, man. He's very quietly gone about amassing an incredibly impressive filmography. Like, whether you're talking about Contact, which I can't believe how many people haven't watched Contact with Jodie Foster. Watch that movie, man. You'll love it. Castaway's great. Forrest Gump is great. Everybody's seen Back to the Future. But yeah, he is a ridiculously good director. He even directed that one, the Beowulf one, that Beowulf animated one, which I thought was great. And Crispin Glover plays the monster. So good. Yeah, I like Zemeckis a lot, man. Just not appreciated enough for his genius. Okay, next one here. Adamus95, got like 10 minutes left here. So I might go through these ones a little more quickly, guys. Adamus95 writes, loved Ready Player One so much that I'm willing to climb to the very top of Everest and yell into the heavens, it's fucking Chucky! I mean, there he goes. I don't want to go into that because I don't want to get into spoiler stuff. That comment by itself was kind of a spoiler, but I love Ready Player One too, man. I wish more people had gone out to see it. If a movie like that only makes $41 million on its opening weekend, I'm losing some hope in humanity because this movie's great and it's fun and it's entertaining. It's whimsical. It's got that adventure to it. It's so good. So good. I wish more people saw it. Carlos Rojas writes, hey, John, love your shows. Thank you so much. Who or what determines how long a movie stays in theaters? Is it the studio or somebody else? Thanks. No, it's the theaters. Like, they'll make an agreement with the studios, hey, we'll minimum keep it in theaters this long, right? But it's not usually very long. It's up to the theaters. Remember, the theaters are all about getting people into the theater. And if your movie is getting people into the theater and they're buying popcorn and they're buying soda, then they will keep your movie in theater. If no one's coming to see your movie and they're running empty movie houses, they're going to throw it out of the theater. So yeah, it's up to the individual movie theaters. Again, there's some exceptions with contracts and things like that, but for the most part, it's up to the theaters. If people keep going to see the movies, they'll keep the movie playing because that's going to make them money. If it's not showing anything, I remember this one great example going back a bunch of years. There was this kind of like indie horror film. And I'm not going to go into details because I got some personal beef in there with this, but there was this filmmaker who made this like indie horror film and AMC was going to carry it nationwide, right? And like they pulled the plug on it after like one weekend. And people thought, oh, it's because of censorship. It wasn't because of censorship. It was because nobody was going to see the fucking movie. Like, no, despite all the publicity and everything, nobody went to go see the damn thing. And the movie theater chain, in this case was AMC, just went, we're not going to lose money By keeping a movie in our theaters that no one's coming to see, instead of putting in another movie that at least some people will come to see, we're losing money. They pull the plug on it right away. So generally speaking, it's the theaters that decide that. Anthony R. writes, will you consider writing a book in the near future about your time at AMC and the place that must not be named? Obviously, not now because it's fresh. No, I won't do that. I've thought about writing a book before about life in this space of like online movie punditry. Because I go all the way back to 2003 when I started the movie blog. And although some sites like Ain't It Cool and whatever had already been around a couple of years, I mean, it was really one of the first big things. Slash Film had just started. Screen Rant just started like 3 weeks after me. I remember because like the owner of Screen Rant, Vic Holterman, he's no longer the owner, but he was a great owner, ran that place great. Screen Rant really misses Vic Holterman, I tell you that. But anyway, movie blog, that like, a lot of these sites all start around that same window of time. And I've thought before about writing a book about my experiences because, you know, there's some pretty cool stories. But I never want to be in a position where I'm censoring myself. And I don't know that I think a lot of people would buy a book like that, particularly people who followed my career, looking for the dirty stuff, like the conflict and whatever. And you know what? Honestly, I don't want to be one of those guys that publicly writes about that shit. Yeah, I just don't think I want to be one of those guys. Like I developed a saying a long time ago that said this: when you get into a shit throwing contest, the only thing that happens is everybody ends up smelling like shit. When you get into a shit throwing contest, all that happens is everybody ends up smelling like shit. And there's just kind of no point to it. That's why I'm a pretty opinionated, I'm pretty, what you see is what you get on the surface kind of stuff. And yet, with the very rare exception, I haven't had a lot of big blow up beefs with anybody online. Like, there have been a couple times when a quick salvo was thrown here or there, but then I think common sense kicks in and goes, okay, you know what? Just going to stop, because a prolonged shit-slinging contest will just result in everybody smelling like shit, including me. So what's the point? So, I mean, I would be curious about writing a book like that. I've thought about writing a book like that, but a lot of people would just be looking for it for all the juicy stuff, and I wouldn't want to write the juicy stuff. So I don't know. I don't think so. If I can figure out a way to write an engaging book about my experiences without it becoming negative, too negative. I don't mind being negative about myself. I can tell you all the stupid shit I've done. I mean, that's fine because that's just me. But I mean, writing negative things about other people, not something I really want to do. Despite the fact it's something I really want to do, but I don't want to be that person, you know? So I don't know. It's something I'd think about, but I'm not sure that I'd ever actually do it. Austin Green writes, how big of a budget do you think the It sequel will have? I'm assuming around $100 million to pay for everyone, as well as the Pennywise related effects. I'm guessing around $100 million. Let me take a look here at what was the budget again. The budget on the first It film was not massive. Where'd it go? Here we go. The budget on the first one was like $35 million. So I can't see it going over $100 million. Now you could say, but John, I mean, it made so much money. It made like $700 million. You could spend more than that, but why? Why act irresponsibly? You made the first movie great for just 35. Don't become stupid now and start spending $200 million on it. If you can make a great movie for 35, there's no excuse that you can't make a wonderful movie for 100. And if that means, oh, your first pick of actress doesn't want to come on unless she's getting paid this much money and that puts you over your budget, fine. There's other great actresses out there who won't cost as much. Take one of them. There's other great actors out there who won't ask for that much. Take one of them. And you're not going to have to pay the child actors an arm and a leg. You'll have to give them a raise, but you're not going to have to pay them an arm and a leg. So I'd say keep it under 100 million. Keep it under 100 million. And at least that's what I hope they do. All right. Next one comes to us from Old Flicks Joe, who writes, Death Wish 74 or Death Wish 3, 1985. I'm going to go with the original. Death Wish 3 was actually pretty good, but I'm going to go with the original. I'll go with the original on that one. Laurie Scott writes, the final title of Avengers 4 will be The Revengers. Thor finally gets his way. Calling it the Revengers. Isn't that a little derivative? Yeah, it's kind of funny because we talked this morning on the John Campea show about the fact that the Russo brothers have confirmed that the name of the movie would be a big spoiler. So that is why they're not revealing the name of Avengers 4, which means you're not going to hear the name of Avengers 4 probably until Avengers Infinity War is nearly done its theatrical run, or is done its theatrical run. Then maybe they'll announce the title. But if they're saying that the title of Avengers 4 would be a big spoiler to something that happens in 3, then they're going to sit on that title. They're not going to. So anybody who's thinking they're going to release the title any day now, don't count on it. It's probably not coming. Okay, next one. Catholic Jack writes, over under 30%. Thanos takes a serum out of Captain America. Take the under. I'll take the under on that. I don't know that the serum isn't in his system anymore. The serum changed him, right? So it's not like the super soldier serum continues to flow through his blood. No, the serum went in him and it changed him from a genetic level. So there's no serum still in him just to pluck out. That's my understanding of it. It's that the serum changed him, but now that's it. It's like if you put bleach in your hair turns white. Well, you can't suck the bleach out. I mean, it's done. The hair is turned white. The hair is now fundamentally different. So I'll take the under on that. It's an interesting thing you're going for there, Catholic Jack, but I'm going to take the under on that simply because it's not about the serum anymore. It's just that it has changed him. He's now genetically a different type of person. Let's see. Squeeze an Old Man Fartbag writes, more, oops. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. Squeeze an Old Man's Fartbag. More disturbing TV moment. Red Wedding or Toby putting his hand on Pam's thigh. I don't know what show we're talking about off the top of my head. Toby putting his hand on... Oh, in The Office. Oh, that was disturbing. Red Wedding. I mean, look, Game of Thrones is not my favorite TV show of all time by any stretch. But, oh my God. That is one of the single most shocking, unbelievable, best single episodes of television ever. I'm not going to say it's the best ever, but it's ranks right up there. And the shock value is one of the reasons why. So I'm going to go with that one. Let's see. Miles Pardo writes, no, you aren't big on it, but favorite Harry Potter film? I think the final one. I really got on board with Harry Potter after episode 4. A lot of people's favorite Harry Potter film is 3, Prisoner of Azkaban. And oddly enough, that's my least favorite. I found that one to be the most disjointed. But I'm in the minority in that. That's fine. Almost everybody else, that's their favorite. My favorite is the final one. I thought it was a great conclusion to the series. I really did. Laurie Scott writes, you say men want brotherhood, Sons of Anarchy. Women want that too, family, friends. You would give your life to protect, and who would also do the same for you. I believe that's why Supernatural speaks to women. Probably. I mean, that's probably very observant. You know, I was talking this morning, or it might have been yesterday, I can't remember, about Sons of Anarchy, and I said, you know, I can't speak for women's perspectives on it because I'm not a woman, so I can't speak from knowledge. So let me just speak from the perspective of a man. From the perspective of a man, I think one of the reasons we as men love Sons of Anarchy so much is because deep down we all really yearn for that type of unconditional ride or die kind of complete loyalty brotherhood. And I'm certain there is an aspect of that is true for women as well. Again, I only just didn't refer to it because I can't speak to that. I'm unqualified to speak to that, but I'm glad that you brought it up, Lori. All right, and final question of the day. How does Thanos or Loki, how does Thanos or Loki hold the Tesseract if in Guardians of the Galaxy they state only a Celestial can hold a stone? Loki tricking Thanos for a bit. I think because the Tesseract, the stone is inside the Tesseract. I think he can hold the Tesseract. Just like in Guardians of the Galaxy, the stone was in the orb. People could hold the orb, but they couldn't hold the stone inside of it. And I think that one shot in the trailer of Thanos crushing something, I think that was a Tesseract to reveal the stone that was inside. So I believe you can hold the Tesseract. I just don't think you can hold the stone that's inside it by itself. I think. Could be completely wrong about that, but that's what I think. All right, guys, I have run out of time. Listen, if you got questions pending here, don't worry about it. Your questions will be answered on a companion video tomorrow. There will be a companion video tomorrow that I will do to make up for those questions that didn't get asked live here. I've run out of time. So thank you guys for joining me here. This is always the best part of my day, doing open mic. I love the show, doing the show so much with you guys here, my fellow film fans talking about movies. Listen, guys, once again, if you are not a Patreon supporter, do me a favor, just for a second, go over and check out patreon.com/John Campea. Get the information there about what it means to be a Patreon supporter, how being a Patreon supporter keeps the show on the air, and also what benefits there are to being a Patreon supporter, like the Facebook group, behind the scenes videos, audio-only versions of the podcast, things like that. And maybe you'll become a Patreon supporter too, and if not, no problem. I'm just happy you're here being a film fan with us. All right, guys, that will do it for me for today's show. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.